Okay, so now a quick presentation how you can actually use this panel. It's really straightforward, so just select two objects. The main script is created for two objects. Press maybe the cables between meshes multi-sweep. Set the number of curves, maybe 30. Gravity, randomization of the gravity. I just use the default values and that's it. Okay, so in this case I have three objects. I will create the locators for each. Constraint ones, maybe 20. Done. So if I change the position, the locators is using the locators are using constraints, parent constraints, as you can see here. Simple. So if I select those two groups, isolate and select the locators inside, and then use constraint locators, constraint curves between locators, gravity, randomization, it's done. Then I go to the second part and using the same script. Done. Now everything is working nicely. See? Before you convert those curves for simulation to dynamic curves, you can actually change the curvature using the bend more or bend less buttons. It's a really simple script, so it's nothing extra fancy. It's not calculating the actual curvature. It's just a little bit of scale trick. So, but it's, you know, if the distance between the two locators is not changing too much, it will look natural. Okay, so now I can select the curves, make curves dynamic. That's it. I select the dynamic curves, sweep mesh, to ask share sweep node. If I press no, it will generate an individual sweep node, sweep mesh creator node for each curve. So I can individually change the attributes. For example, maybe I want this to be a different one, so I twist it. I have not enough polygons, so I change the number. So it's working the same way. I can change the global scale, and I can change the individual instances, so standard Maya stuff. So if now I go and press interactive playback, so now this is simulating interactively. I can give a little bit more frames. So, and now I can move here the objects. I can animate the objects. So if I go back, I stop it, I undo the position, I go back the first frame, sorry, and I select the object, maybe this one. Go to channel box, I just keyframe the set keys for transform and rotation. The first frame, I press interactive playback, change the position and the rotation. Okay, I stop the simulation. I also again set the keys for translate and rotation. Go back to the first frame, and maybe I change the the precision of the simulation. So I select the nucleus node, substep 6, max collision iteration is 8, and then I just press play. It will play back the simulation. Of course, not the simulation, the animation, and it will simulate the whole thing together. So because we're using higher numbers of substeps in the nucleus, the collision actually will be much more precise. But if it's not enough, or you see some intersections, you can check the hair system. So because all the curves are converted together into one hair system, the dynamic attributes is changing the entire hair system attributes. So it's not individual attributes, but for all the curves, which is converted at the same time. So select the hair system, solver display, collision thickness. You can see for some curves this is enough, for some it's not. So this is a little bit of, you know, thinking a little bit differently. So it's not super precise, but precise enough. Okay, maybe this will be a little bit better. Turn off the collision preview and I press play. So the animation is playing back, and while we're doing that, it's simulating the collisions and everything. See, it's fairly okay. See, so it's not, maybe not extremely perfect, but you know, yeah, some intersections here and there, but you know, so mainly this is a modeling tool, so it's enough. So finally, you can actually change the actual simulated curves after the simulation. So this is an additional modification. So if I select this curve and go to control vertex, if I change the position of this vertex here, see, it will work this way. It's pretty nice. So you can fix the issues you might see. For example, with this curve, I can easily fix this problem. Yeah, this way. So that's nice. And this modification will be, again, it will be an additional modification, and it will be kept during the simulation. If I go back to the first frame and simulate again, this modification will be kept. But I can do an interesting thing. So if I again go to the CVs and select the CVs, go to channel box. Now you can see the CVs click to show part, and if I open this, you can see the additional modifications. So if I just zero this out, now if I removed my additional modification to the curve. So you can do that easily in this way. So same here. See, zero this out. So if I go back and change the attributes, those additional modifications will be removed this way. So that's the power of this system. I mean Maya. Yeah. Okay, so now the super interesting part. So if I use another torus, because that's, you know, it's a cool object. And if I change the radius a bit and I scale up this object, right? And I convert this object to a collider, create passive collider. Now all the dynamic curves will collide with this one. So if I press play and I'm using this object as a collider, I can actually do some interesting stuff here with this one. like this. Pretty cool, right? So the collision thickness of this, maybe it's way too big. So if I go 0.1, that's better. So now I can just continue the interactive playback, and I can change the position of this one. So if you move the object too fast, you can actually broke the simulation, but you know, it's not a real-time physics system. It's just Maya's and dynamic system. But you know, it's fairly quick for at this complexity, right? Okay, so you can do this. Now if you go back to the first frame, of course the animation is not stored. We did not do that, so you will lose those things. But I can show you another thing. For example, I want, maybe with this curve, I want to generate a spiral around this one. So I select the curve and I press spiral from curves with history, number of loops. There is a trick here. You can actually use 10 here, and then you can go up to 30 if you want. Radius 20. Okay, so this is the spiral. This is actually I'm using this trick to creating a helix and then wrap that helix with the curve wrap node around the curve, and then I convert one loop to a curve. So that's what you see here. So this is really powerful, because then you can just change the scale of the original helix object and the number of coils. Again, it's 3 times as much you can use here as you chose, you know, at the beginning. So maybe 20. Of course, if I start playing, this is actually following the original curve because it's using the curve wrap, right? But it's not simulated. It's just following. So if I select this curve and go to Maker's Dynamics, so this will generate a second hair system. Its physical attributes is independent from the first one. So if I select this and go to Sweep Mesh, so this is using the number 40 as a default. It's way too low. So if I go 300, that would be better, right? So if I play back from the first frame, this is colliding with all the other objects. See, which is funny. Yeah. Okay, so you can actually do a few other things here in the secondary hair system. So this is the spiral. You can actually animate the rest length scale as well, and a few other things. Maybe a friction. I will lower the friction a bit. So if I play back, it will be sliding more, right? Yeah, so maybe the friction at 1 it's a little bit better, or almost 1. But now I can do strange things. Maybe I can animate this max scale value. So if I right click set key, go to interactive playback, and I starting to change basically the radius of this one. Okay, so in this case this will not work. I have to break connection and then play, and then I can adjust this. See, so we started from 10 and now we are back to 1. So you can animate that but you can easily figure out what is the best starting value, maybe 25 or something, and then start interactive playback, and then you can adjust these values, so you can bring those together, right? Those curves cables this way. As you can see, the collision is not perfect, so actually there is a built-in solution for that. If you go to hair system and you go to collision thickness, you can see the thickness is, in this case, almost okay, but it's not enough resolution, right? See? So, but there is a nice little trick I used. So if you go to the hair system follicles, which is the base of the hair curves, right? And you select the curve, and you find the first rebuild curve node. This is the number of spans how the original curve is rebuilt. So rebuilt. So if I use 200, now the actual collision shape is have more resolution. So now I can adjust the radius. Yeah, maybe that's too much. Okay, so I hide that, and now I can go back to the p-helix, curve wrap set to 25 or something. I can press play, so I can watch the simulation. So it's colliding much better. If it's not enough, you can still increase the resolution. You can increase the substeps. So this is getting fairly, complex. So be careful with the simulation values, okay? So basically that's it. So I can now do this. So starting from 25, interactive playback. So, and maybe around 100 frame. I try to put this together maybe for 2 or something. Yeah. So I stop the simulation, and so is 124. Set the key to this one. Set to 25, the first frame, and set key at there. And now just press playback, and it will simulate. Yeah, it's not as fast, of course. It's not a real-time simulation system and dynamics, but it's looking cool, right? Yeah, a lot of tension here because I'm also rotating these turns. Yeah, so now, of course, you can go back and change maybe the resolution here and there. For this one, maybe. Yes, definitely. There is a huge bump here. So maybe 100, 200. You can use the optimize as well. Yeah. So, and this is what you want. You just press remove hair and nucleus nodes. This will remove most of the simulation stuff from the entire scene, so be careful. That's it. So now nothing is actually simulated anymore. But the animation is still stored in this object, so I will remove the animation as well. And now if I go back to the first frame, everything is just freezed in time. So the clusters are here and the parent constraints are here, but there is no curves anymore which you can use. So this is now pure geometry. So if you just keep the sweep groups, right? Removed maybe all the clusters and curves groups. Yeah. And the p-helix. Now you just have the locators. You can hide those, or you can use it later if you want. But this is just pure geometry. Okay, that's it.